In 1973, in objection to U.S. support for the newly formed country of Israel, the OPEC countries saw that we were, because of those hippies, no longer producing enough oil to sustain ourselves. And they wanted to hurt us, so they cut supply drastically. They also further cut 5% every month through the next year till March of 1974 under the trade embargo against the U.S., where gas prices literally quadrupled for us. This is happening again. Obviously, it happened again with the fall of the Shah of Iran in 1979. Oil tripled again there. We had gas lines. People couldn't fill up their cars and go to work. So let's fast forward to recently. OPEC controlled almost 40% of the global production, and for years, it's cut or slowed or sped up production all the time to manipulate global oil prices to their liking so they can maximize their own profits, like we saw during COVID. And they can do this because it costs them a lot less to bring that oil to market than it does here in America, probably about half, due to the fact that they have virtually no labor laws and no environmental standards. As you can see right here, they're burning like acres of tires at a time. So why does this matter to you at home? Well, with OPEC breaking apart, and no doubt this is because some behind-the-scenes talks from the Trump administration, there's no more drilling quotas. Countries can and will pump as much oil as they can to get as much money as they can. You see, the UAE under OPEC was only, due to joint agreements and things like that within the organization, was only producing a little over 3 million barrels a day. But they have the capacity to produce 5 million, which they're going to start doing now that they're not constrained by OPEC, which is almost entirely offsetting the Iranian production. They only were producing 3 million barrels total a day. This is why Iran was targeting the UAE with so many strikes and drones during the kickoff of Trump's bombing campaign, because Trump was immediately in touch with the UAE about picking up the oil exports that Iran would not be able to fulfill when the blockade went into place. No, yeah, but the libs said Trump doesn't have a plan. It's actually remarkable. Here's the awesome part. Because the UAE is now ramping up production to compete with them, so will Saudi Arabia, who they've already said they would, who's right now only producing 7.5 million barrels per day, but they have the capacity to produce over 12 million a day. Look, if just those two countries start maxing out their production, which they can do by the end of this year, Iran's oil market is completely irrelevant because the region is now producing more than 3 million more barrels than when Iran was in the game 2 months ago. And here's the best part. All of this oil can be exported from those two countries without the use of the Strait of Hormuz. Here, look, you can see it. The UAE can load outside the strait. Saudi can export to their west coast to the Red Sea, or to the south or north, or the Suez Canal into the Mediterranean to export to Europe. And Trump can maintain the blockade and literally starve Iran indefinitely. And why is that a good thing, other than we don't like them? We also don't like China. And they don't have enough oil to run their country right now, which means they certainly don't have the resources to, wage a war against Taiwan, to take their semiconductors away from us, or undercut us on production now, because it costs them basically $20 a gallon for fuel in China today, which is why China's real estate market has essentially wiped out all of its gains from the last 20. Can you imagine buying a house 20 years ago and it's worth less today than it was then? That's China. So just real quick to recap what Trump just did. America is now the global leader in oil exports. More countries are buying their oil on the dollar. Iran can't export almost any oil through our blockade, a little bit over land, maybe. China's not getting 50% of its previous oil. The biggest oil cartel that manipulated prices has been broken up. And because of this little 45-day hiccup in supply, half of America's domestic political opposition to drilling has now flipped over to the support side because they realize we need it. And, oh, by the way, there's also new massive political support for the new oil refinery that Trump announced months ago that he was criticized for, but now everybody knows we need. Look, I've been giving you the gist of this for a while now, but remember, I told you that he had like 10 to 30 days to open the supply lines, meaning to open the Strait of Hormuz, assuming that that was the only way to get more oil to the market. Trump was like, yeah, hold my beer. Pulled this rabbit out of a hat and showed us what's behind door number 3. I didn't even see this coming. By the way, not one word of this global overhaul plan leaked the White House the whole time.